Welcome, guys. Tony Porter, Cards and Dice TV, and I just discovered a couple of boxes, and I'm going to share those out with you. We're going to go over the contents. We're going to go over the meaning of those particular seasons, and let's see. All right, so I was not totally sure that I had this set, but I had a feeling that I did, and I discovered this box, spring cleaning. And lo and behold, it looks like I have the 1964 APBA season. And this page is old, to say the least. Okay, so let's go over the 64 APBA season. This is the 65 edition of the 64 season. That's how APBA did it. And see what we got in this box. All right, well, let's look and see what we got here, see the condition of the cards, and of course, get a feel for what it is. Let's start with the Yankees is usually, or are the easiest team to begin with, because, everybody on the team pretty much. All right, so there's a couple of extra players that I see were cut out in black. The ink is black, and I remember these extra players came in black ink, but these are done in paper versus I remember it was cardboard. They have a little writing on top as well. I think tells you the won loss record and the ERA. Here it gives you the batting average, and I'm not sure. Oh, that's the 0 home runs, probably 1 RBI. Now, it looks like these cards were typed on at the top, as you can see. Fairly good condition, 64, 831/229. So somebody took these cards and typed the batting averages for the different players. Mickey Mantle, 35 home runs, 111 RBIs, and a 303 average. 1964, Bobby Richardson, 450/267. Stottlemyre, Terry, Tresh. And this team only comes with 2 extra players. I believe these are extra players. Ford, Al Downing, Blanchard, Boughton, Jim Boughton. He's a B. Cleve Boyer batted .218. So they added some stats. Elston Howard batted .313. All in good shape. Not too beat up. These are good to play with. Mickey Mantle with a 1 at 66, 1 at 11. Roger Maris in 64 had a 26 home runs, 71 RBIs. Let's learn a little bit about the 1964 season. The 2 top teams in the 1964 season were the Yankees and the St. Louis Cardinals. And the St. Louis Cardinals ultimately won the World Championship. Let's look at some. There was 7 teams that had 90 wins or better. It was the Yankees, Cardinals, White Sox, Reds, Phillies, Orioles, and San Francisco Giants. So the second best team are the Cardinals. Let's see if we can quickly find the Cardinals. So all the envelopes are the long envelopes. They're in good shape. Here are the Cardinals. Let's see what kind of extra players we get. So we have 2 extra players there. And there's no roster for extra players. So let's see how many extra players we get with the Cardinals. Okay, so here is, oh, look at this. This gives you the dimensions of the stadium. It's interesting. Somebody added that. And here you got some paper that looks like it was glued to cardstock. So here we have 2 extra players, 3 extra players, 3 extra players for the Cardinals. Bob Humphreys, Gagliano, and Richardson. And then we're going to have Dick Grote. Also, here's another, the fourth extra player. Okay, Bushek. Now here we're going to have Grote, 292. Wow, shortstop. Warwick, Bobby Uecker, 198. Skinner, 254. Dal Maxfield, 231. So here you have Bill White, 303, 21 home runs. Mike Shannon, 261. Tim McCarver, 288. Javier, 241. Kurt Flood, 311. Lou Brock, 315. So had a pretty good team. Ken Boyer, 24 home runs, 295. And of course, the closer is Schultz, and then you have Kurt Simmons, a pitcher. Ray Sadecki was at his best. You have, of course, Gibson, Mike Cuellar starting out, not very good at a D. Roger Craig, a C. And here you have some extra cards that they made as well. Oh, look at that. They made, that's interesting. So here we have additional extra players, but with rounded edges, with the backing, the APBA backing, and these look very different. And there's a Richardson with a C. So it's almost the same exact data. That's interesting. So I have two sets of extra players in this for the St. Louis team, and they won it all. So they have a pretty good squad. The envelopes are in super duper good shape. There's these giant envelopes. Let's look a little bit more about this. Let's learn a little bit more about the 64 season before we open up another team. Let's see. Team batting, 272 was the highest team batting. It was the Braves and the St. Louis Cardinals. This season had 20 teams total. Pittsburgh Pirates came in third at 264, and then it went down to 258. The Boston Red Sox, the Phillies with 258 as well, and then it was the Tigers and the Yankees both tied at 253. So let's look a little bit now home run wise. Team with the most home runs were the Twins with 221, the Red Sox with 186, the Kansas City Athletics 166, the Giants with 165, the Yankees were sixth with 162. This era was not a big stolen base era, except the Dodgers swiped a ton of bases at 141, almost one per game. The next closest to the Dodgers were the Reds with 90. Then the Indians and the Orioles with 79 and 78. So the most other teams were 70 and below. The team with the fewest stolen bases were the Red Sox. They only had 18 stolen bases for the whole 1964 season. The league average was 59. So let's look at team pitching now. Let's see, ERA. So the best ERA were the White Sox, Angels, 272 for the White Sox, 291 for the Angels. The Dodgers with 295. Let's look at the Dodgers. And the Dodgers, where do we say they ended up? They were pretty good. The Dodgers were 10th, 82 and 80, but they did have Sandy Koufax. So let's take a look at the Dodgers with Sandy Koufax. So this is all right, so here we have our original extra players. Some of these have been, it feels like they were glued on, so they're paper, thin paper, but then some are glued onto this cardstock. Now, in this case, there's 3 players that are glued onto cardstock, and 1 is just paper. But then we have an additional set of extra players done with the blue backing. Trying to figure this out. Has the blue back, and then of course some kind of strange red font in the front. It's a little bit different than your standard font, and I'll show you the comparison. Here are the regular fonts. See that? These are white cards. These were newer cards, and then of course these are the older cards. This set has the stats at the bottom. Pitchers get their ERA, and at the bottom, Paranowski, Brewer. I'm looking, of course, for Doug Camilli, the catcher. Tommy Davis, he batted 275. Willie Davis batted 294. I was confused those two guys. Veron Fairley, 256 in his prime. I remember him with the Toronto Blue Jays at first base in the twilight of his career. Gilliam batted 228, not very good. 290 for Griffin, the third baseman. Joe Moeller. Nate Oliver. Phil Ortega. Wes Parker, 257. He was a good defensive guy, but not in this case, not at first base. They gave him a 2. Howie Reed, I'm still looking for, you know who, Shizuki. Frank Howard with 24 home runs, 226, did not hit very well. Maury Wills has a ton of stolen bases. He has an 11 of 15, 11 of 25, 11 of 51. Don Drysdale, and there he is, the one and only Sandy Koufax, and it has a little field as well. Los Angeles capacity tells you a little bit about the dimensions of the field. And Sandy Koufax card with an A, XY, and a 2. So that's pretty interesting so far. Let's find out a little bit more about, let's see, pitching staffs. Home runs allowed by pitching staffs. It's going to be Athletics with 220, the Twins 181, the Red Sox and the Senators 178, 172, and then the Tigers and the Braves at 164 and 160. And fielding wise, let's see what they have. What we have fielding wise. Okay, team fielding. What can we look at here? Let's look at errors. Most errors was 177 by the Pittsburgh Pirates. Then, this is interesting, the world champion Cardinals were second with most errors, 1 per game, a little bit more than 1 per game at 172. The Dodgers 170, the Mets 167. So that's interesting. So the worst, the best, or the most winningest team, the team that won it all, made the second most errors in the league. Now, you could also say that they had such great range that they got to every single ball. And, they made, because of that, because they got to so many balls, they made a bunch of errors. You could make that argument. It's hard to tell. Now, let's look at something that a lot of games use now, the RTOT. The RTOT is the total zone, total fielding runs above average. It's called the RTOT. And the best team was the White Sox. Next is the Orioles, the Tigers, and the Angels. Then came the Yankees, the Reds, and the Cardinals. Okay, so it makes sense. So the Cardinals were in the top 7. They weren't at the top, but they were in the top 7. Yankees were 5th in that list. The White Sox, Orioles, and Tigers. White Sox, Orioles, and Tigers, and let's see where they finished in the standings. Yeah, White Sox finished. Where did the White Sox finish in this? Oh, the White Sox were 3rd in the standings. Okay. Phillies were 5th in the standings. The Orioles were 6th. So the RTOT aligns with the ultimate won-loss record of your team. So this is a valuable kind of defensive stat that you can look at as well. And that's about it. So, I mean, we went over the Dodgers. We looked at the Koufax card. It's one of the reasons I bought this. I also bought it for the Yankees. At that time, I was into 64. And I didn't really, to be honest with you, I thought I had it, but then Dodgers. I thought I had it, but then I found a different box with 64, and I said, okay. And then all of a sudden I'm looking, and I discovered I did have this. So let's look at one more team here. Let's look at one more team. Let's look at the White Sox. White Sox finished 3rd, had 98 victories. They actually had more victories than the St. Louis Cardinals. So let's look at the White Sox. They're a heck of a team. See who they had on them. Chicago White Sox. Envelopes are in really nice condition. All right, so they had Floyd Robinson at 301. He was the outfielder. Landis, not very good. Hirschberger, not very good. Al Weiss, infielder. 247. Hanson, 261. Ward, the third baseman, at 282. 23 home runs. Good season. First baseman was McGraw, 261. Not a very good first baseman. The catcher was J.C. Martin. I remember him on the Mets, the 69 Mets, I believe. Then you had the pitching staff, another catcher, McNerney. And you had outfielder Nicholson, who hit the 13 home runs, 204. Skowron, first baseman with 17 home runs, ex-Yankee. Don Buford played second base back then with the 262 average. Pizarro, here are your pitchers, right? So here, let's get this to the infield. There. Here are your pitchers. Don Buford, Pizarro, Pete Peters, an A. Joe Horlin, an A. James Hoyt Wilhelm, he's an A out of the bullpen. Fisher, another bullpen guy, he is a B. Buzzard, he is a C. Mossy is a C out of the bullpen. And then we have a couple of extra players in this set. This is like thicker card, real thick card. I don't know, weird. And then of course you had Carrion and you had Stevens. You only have 2 extra players in this particular team. So this is interesting. You know, you get either 4 or either double the extra players, two sets of the same extra players, or you get just 2 extra players. So I'm wondering what was going on. I know I believe this is the first season they do extra players, I believe, with APBA. And they came a little bit different than they came later on. It looks like it's a sheet of paper, basically. Just a sheet of paper. So that's super interesting. I wonder what they did with the other 2 extra players. Or if I'm wondering even if there are 4 extra players per team. So that's the White Sox, again, in good shape. The Cincinnati Reds were 92 and 70. Let's see who they have. I know Pete Rose is on that team. You can look at his card. Oh, the Mets. That's frightening. Here are the Cincinnati Reds. All right, Cincinnati Reds with this team has 1, 2, 3, Nuxall, Queen, Coker, and Duran. And then, of course, they have those 4 repeats, Queen, Nuxall, Duran, and Coker. And now you have the regular players. So this team is one of those teams that has the double extra players. So some teams have them. McCool, Henry out of the bullpen, Ellis, Sammy Ellis out of the bullpen. Then you have your infielders, Ruiz, Rose. Pete Rose played second base back then. He's a 6, batted 269. Pavlich, a catcher. Outfielder is Keogh with a 257 average. Harper, 243. Coleman, first baseman, 242. Burrows, third baseman, 257. Robinson, he hit 29 home runs, 306. Pinson, 266, 23 home runs. First baseman Darren Johnson, in his prime, 21, 273. Catcher Johnny Edwards at 281. Good hitting catcher, wow. Cardinals, a shortstop, at 251. Perky, now we continue with the starting staff probably. O'Toole was a B. Jim Maloney was a B. Joey J was a C, he's an ex-Yankee. And Satoris is a D pitcher. And that is your Cincinnati Reds. So none of the guys from the later years, the Big Red Machine Reds, are in this team. So anyway, that's your unboxing of the 1964 season. And you learned a little bit about the season. And you can think about whether you would like to play a season like that. And what does this have in it? This one has, again, they cut out the pictures of the stadiums. I guess they would put them out to get a visual interpretation. I bet you they had some sort of homebrews for the stadiums as well. And let's get that. Wait. Okay, here. So this one does have also the stadium on these little pieces of paper. There you go. So let's put this back, and that's about it, guys, for this unboxing of the 1964 APBA season, the original 64 season. Pretty good shape, except it does have a little writing on top. So unfortunately, that, you know, it may have an effect on people wanting how much they want to pay for it. If, you know, if this goes up for sale or auction or whatever it is. So anyway, this is Tony Porter, Cards and Dice TV. Remember to like and subscribe my channel, and stay tuned for more unboxings and more tabletop baseball. Take care. See you soon. Remember to join Universal Baseball Association Facebook group.